What happens when one of television's most outspoken hosts goes toe-to-toe with a wildlife warrior who refuses to back down? The answer involves a heated exchange that no one saw coming. A studio audience left speechless in a resignation that's already sending shock waves through daytime television. Before we get into what went down, make sure you're subscribed and drop a comment below telling me whose side you're on after you hear this whole thing play out. So, Robert Irwin is sitting there on the panel of The View, and from the moment he walks out, you can tell something's different about this interview. He's not the usual celebrity guest plugging a new project with carefully rehearsed talking points. He's there to discuss his conservation work, specifically a new initiative about protecting endangered species in urban environments, and he's clearly passionate about it. The audience gives him a warm welcome, and the other hosts seem genuinely interested in what he has to say. Joy starts off friendly enough, asking him about growing up at the Australia Zoo and following in his father's footsteps. Robert lights up talking about it, sharing stories about working with crocodiles and how his family has dedicated their lives to wildlife conservation. The conversation flows. Background on Joy Behar and Robert Irwin naturally for the first few minutes, and everything seems perfectly normal. But then Joy pivots. She brings up a recent controversy involving a conservation group that Robert's organization had partnered with, one that had been criticized for their stance on limiting agricultural development in certain regions. Now, this is where things start to shift. Joy's tone changes, becoming more pointed, more challenging. So, Robert, she says, leaning forward slightly, don't you think it's a bit privileged to tell farmers in developing countries that they can't use their land to feed their families, all in the name of saving some animals? You can see Robert's expression change. He's not defensive, but he's clearly not expecting this angle. He takes a breath and responds calmly. Well, Joy, that's actually a really common misconception about conservation work. We're not telling anyone they can't feed their families. We're working with local communities to find sustainable solutions that benefit both people and wildlife. It's about balance, not choosing one over the other. Joy doesn't let it go. But at the end of the day, you're a wealthy guy from a famous family telling people who are struggling to survive that they need to worry about koalas or whatever instead of putting food on the table. How is that not out of touch? The audience gets quiet. The other hosts exchange glances. Robert sits up a little straighter with respect. Joy, I think you're oversimplifying a really complex issue. I've spent months living in these communities, working alongside people who depend on the land. They understand better than anyone that if we destroy these ecosystems, everyone loses. The land becomes unusable. The water sources dry up, the food chains collapse. Conservation isn't about choosing animals over people. It's about ensuring start of the heated exchange. Both can thrive. Joy fires back. That's Easy to say when you've never had to. Worry about where your next meal is coming from. You grew up in a zoo for crying out loud. What do you really know about poverty? Now the tension in the studio is palpable. One of the other hosts tries to jump in, but Robert raises his hand politely, indicating he wants to respond. His voice is still calm, but there's an edge to it now. Joy, you're right that I've been fortunate in my upbringing, but I've also dedicated my entire life to this work. I've been to places where people are facing real hardship, and I've listened to them. The solutions we propose aren't coming from me sitting in some ivory tower. They're coming from scientists, local leaders, and community members who live these realities every single day. Joy leans back in her chair, crossing her arms. Okay, but let's talk about the bigger picture here. Climate change, habitat loss, species extinction. These are all symptoms of larger systemic problems, right? Capitalism, overconsumption, inequality. But you never talk about those things. You just want to save the cute animals and get your photo ops. The accusation hangs in the air. Robert's jaw tightens slightly, and for the first time you can see he's genuinely frustrated. That's not fair. And honestly, Joy, it's not accurate. If you actually followed the work we do, instead of making assumptions, you'd know that we address all of those issues. We talk about sustainable economics. We work on policy reform. We advocate for indigenous land rights. But yes, I also save animals. Because someone has to, and I won't apologize for that. The audience starts to murmur. Some people are nodding in agreement with Robert. Others look uncomfortable with how confrontational this has become. Joy notices the audience reaction and seems to double down. Look, she says, her voice rising slightly. I'm just asking the questions that people at home are thinking. You come on here with your khaki shorts and your enthusiasm. And sure, everyone loves you because you're Steve Irwin's son. But when we're talking about real world problems, maybe stick to what you know, which is wrangling reptiles, not lecturing the rest of us about how to live. The other hosts look genuinely shocked now. One of them tries to interject with Joy, I think. But Robert is already responding, his voice steady but firm. Joy, I came here today to have a real conversation about conservation. Not to be condescended to. If you disagree with the work we're doing, that's absolutely your right. But dismissing everything I've said because of who my father was, or implying that I don't understand complex issues, that's not a debate. That's just disrespectful. Joy's eyes flash. Oh, so now I'm being disrespectful. I'm the one asking tough questions that clearly make you uncomfortable. Maybe if you spent less time with animals and more time in the real world, you'd have thicker skin. Robert shakes his head slowly. This isn't about thick skin. Joy, this is about you deciding before I even walked out here that you were going to tear down what I do rather than actually Engage with it. I've answered every question you've asked honestly and thoroughly, but you're not interested in my answers. You're interested in making a point. The studio has gone completely silent except for their voices. The cameras are catching every moment of this unfolding confrontation, and you can tell the producers are probably losing their minds in the control room. This is not how interviews on The View usually go. Especially not with guests like Robert Irwin, who are typically welcomed with open arms. Joy's face flushes slightly, and she leans forward again, her voice taking on a sharper tone. You know what, Robert? Maybe I'm not interested in your answers because they're the same polished talking points every celebrity activist gives. You want to save the world? Great. But don't come on this show and expect us to just nod along when your solutions don't address the root causes of anything. Robert's composure is remarkable, but you can see the frustration building behind his eyes. Joy, what would you like me to say? That conservation work is pointless. That we should just give up on protecting what's left of our natural world because the problems are too big. I'm out there doing something, working with real people to make real change. What's your solution? Sitting here and tearing down everyone who's actually trying. The audience gasps audibly. This is unprecedented. Guests don't talk back to Joy like this, especially not with this level of directness. The other hosts are frozen, clearly unsure whether to intervene or let this play out. Joy's voice goes cold. Excuse me. I've been fighting for progressive causes. Moment tension peaks on air. Since before you were born. I've used this platform to advocate for change on every major issue you can think of. So, don't you dare suggest that I'm not doing anything just because I'm asking you hard questions. Robert doesn't back down. Then ask me hard questions. Joy, I welcome them. But what you're doing isn't asking hard questions. You're attacking my character and dismissing my work without even trying to understand it. There's a difference between challenging someone's ideas and just being hostile for the sake of it. Joy slams her hand on the table and the sound echoes through the studio. I am not being hostile. I am doing my job, which is to hold people accountable when they come on this show, spouting simplistic solutions to complex problems. Simplistic. Robert's voice rises for the first time, matching her energy. Joy, I've spent the last 20 minutes trying to explain the nuance and complexity of this work, and you've dismissed every single thing I've said. You've decided that because I'm young, because of who my family is, that I couldn't possibly have anything meaningful to contribute to this conversation. That's not accountability. That's prejudice. The word hangs in the air like a bomb. Joy's mouth opens, then closes. The other hosts look like they want to be anywhere but here. The audience is completely silent, watching this confrontation unfold with a mixture of shock and disbelief. Joy's voice drops to a dangerous quiet. Are you seriously accusing me of prejudice right now? On my own show, Robert doesn't flinch. I'm saying you're judging me based on assumptions rather than listening to what I'm actually saying. If that's not prejudice, what is it? You've made it clear from the start of this conversation that you don't respect me or my work. So, why even invite me here? One of the other hosts finally manages to jump in. Okay, let's all just take a breath here. I think maybe we got a little heated but Joy cuts her off. No, I want to hear this. Robert thinks I'm prejudiced against him. Please enlighten me. What exactly am I prejudiced about? The fact that you're a privileged kid playing dress up as a conservationist. The insult is so direct, so cutting that even the camera operators seem to react. Robert's face goes hard. And when he speaks, his voice is quiet but intense. You know what, Joy? I've tried to be respectful here. I've tried to engage with your points, even when you've been dismissive and rude. But if you're going to sit there and reduce my entire life's work, everything my family has sacrificed and fought for to playing dress up, then we have nothing left to talk about. He starts to remove his microphone. The producers are definitely panicking now. You can see someone in the wings frantically gesturing, but Robert is done. He stands up, still calm, but clearly finished with this conversation. Joy's eyes go wide. Oh, so you're just... Joy Behar walks off. Going to walk out? Can't handle a real conversation. Robert pauses, turns back to face her directly. Joy, this stopped being a real conversation the moment you decided to attack me personally instead of engaging with the actual issues. I came here to talk about conservation. About the work that matters to me and to millions of people around the world. You turned it into a personal battle because, for whatever reason, you've decided I'm your enemy. I don't know if it's my age, my background, or just that you needed someone to go after today, but I'm not going to stand here and be your punching bag. Joyce stands up to now, her voice rising. Nobody made you a punching bag. You're being dramatic because someone finally called you out on your nonsense. Call me out on what exactly? Robert's voice is loud now, too. No longer trying to maintain calm. What have I said? That's nonsense. Joy, give me one specific thing. You've spent this entire interview making vague accusations and personal attacks, but you haven't actually challenged a single concrete thing I've said about the work we do. Because you don't know anything about it. You don't want to know. You just want to score points. The other hosts are trying to regain control, but it's chaos now. Joy is pointing at Robert, her face red. I know that people like you swoop in with your celebrity status and your charity all the credit while the people who've been doing this work for decades get ignored. That's what I know. Robert spreads his hands wide. Then bring those people on the show. Amplify their voices. I would love nothing more than for this platform to highlight the incredible work being done by scientists and activists who don't have public profiles. But don't Tear me down because you think there's only room for one type of person in this space. That's not how progress works. Joy shakes her head, her voice dripping with contempt. You don't get it. You'll never get it because you've never had to fight for anything in your entire life. Everything was handed to you. There's a long pause. Robert's expression shifts from anger to something else, something harder to read. When he speaks, his voice is low and controlled. You know nothing about my life, Joy. Nothing about what I've been through, what my family has been through. You've decided who I am based on your own biases. And no amount of conversation is going to change that. So, I'm done trying. He turns to leave the stage. The audience doesn't know whether to applaud or stay silent. Some people are filming on their phones. This is clearly going to be everywhere within minutes. Joy is standing at the table, breathing hard, looking like she's torn between yelling after him or letting him go. But then she makes her decision. Her voice cuts across the studio. Fine, walk away. That's what people like you do when things get tough. Robert stops at the edge of the stage. He doesn't turn around, but his voice carries clearly no joy. That's what people do when they realize they're wasting their time. I hope whatever you got out of this was worth it. And then he's gone, walking off the stage and out of sight. The camera cuts back to the table where Joy is still standing. The other host looking absolutely stricken. The studio audience is murmuring. Some people are standing. The energy is completely chaotic. Joy sits back down heavily in her chair. And for a moment, she looks uncertain, like maybe she's realizing this went too far. But then, her expression hardens again, defensive. One of the other hosts tries to smooth panel reaction and audience shock things over, saying something about how sometimes discussions get passionate. Trying to segue, but Joy interrupts her. No, you know what? I'm not apologizing for asking tough questions. If he can't handle it, that's on him, not on me. The other hosts exchange glances that speak volumes. The audience reaction is mixed. Some people nodding in agreement with Joy, others shaking their heads in disapproval. Another host, her voice careful and measured, speaks up. Joy, I think maybe we could have handled that differently. He was clearly trying to have a real conversation about his work. And it felt like things got personal pretty quickly. Joy whips around and face her. Oh, so now you're taking his side after everything we've talked about on this show about holding privileged people accountable. That's exactly what I was doing. A third host chimes in, her tone gentle but firm. There's a difference between holding someone accountable and attacking them. Joy and I think what we all just witnessed cross that line. He came here in good faith and you made it hostile from the start. Joy's face goes through a series of expressions: shock, anger, defensiveness, and something else that might be the first crack of self-doubt. But she's not ready to admit anything. I cannot believe this. I ask one tough question, and suddenly I'm the bad guy. This is ridiculous. The fourth host, who's been quiet this whole time, finally speaks. Joy, it wasn't one tough question. You questioned his intelligence, his motives, his entire life's work, and his family legacy on national television in front of millions of people. That young man came here to talk about saving endangered species. And you treated him like he was a political opponent you needed to destroy. The words hit like a slap. Joy opens her mouth to respond, but nothing comes out. The studio audience is watching this internal conflict play out in real time, and you can feel the shift in the room. What started as a controversial interview has become something else entirely. A public reckoning happening live on air. Joy's voice is quieter now, but still defensive. He accused me of prejudice. He said I was attacking him. What was I supposed to do? Just sit there and take that? The first host who spoke leans forward. Joy, he only said that after you spent 15 minutes dismissing everything. He said, calling his work simplistic, saying he was playing dress up. Come on. You have to see how that looked. Joy stands up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. The sudden movement silences everyone. She's breathing hard. And when she speaks, her voice is shaking slightly. You know what? I've been doing this show for years. And I've never had my own co-host turn on me like this over some kid who couldn't handle a tough interview. Another host stands too, her voice firm. This isn't about us turning on you, Joy. This is about all of us watching. Something happened that didn't sit right. We are supposed to be a team. But how can we be a team when you won't even listen to us now? The tension between the hosts is palpable and the audience is completely transfixed. This is not typical daytime television drama. This is real conflict, real emotion playing out without a script. Joy looks around at her co-hosts, at the audience, at the cameras that are still rolling, capturing every moment of this. You can see the wheels turning in her head. The realization that this has spiraled completely out of her control. Her voice drops to barely above a whisper, but the social media response explodes. Microphones pick it up. I can't do this. I can't sit here and be attacked by my own colleagues for doing my job. One of the hosts reaches out. Joy, nobody's attacking you. We're trying to talk to you about what just happened. Please sit down. Let's figure this out. But Joy is already backing away from the table. No. I'm done. If this is what this show has become, if I can't ask hard questions without being ganged up on, then I don't want to be part of it anymore. The studio goes completely silent. Even the audience members who were murmuring have gone quiet. The other hosts look stunned, like they can't quite believe what they're hearing. Joy, come on. One of them says, her voice pleading now. Don't do this. Let's just take a breath. Go to commercial and talk about this off camera. Joy shakes her head, and there are tears in her eyes. Now, though whether they're from anger, or hurt or frustration is impossible to tell. I've given everything to this show. Everything. And this is what I get. Being told I'm too harsh, too mean, too much. I'm the same person I've always been. If that's not good enough anymore, then maybe it's time for me to go. The words hang in the air like smoke. One of the hosts has her hand over her mouth, clearly shocked. Another is shaking her head, trying to signal to Joy to stop to think about what she's saying. But Joy is on a roll now. The words pouring out. You want someone who's going to softball every interview. Someone who's going to smile and nod and never challenge anyone. Fine. But that's not me. That's never been me. And I'm not going to change who I am because one guest couldn't handle the heat. And you all decided to side with him over me. The host closest to her stands up, reaching out. Nobody's siding with anyone. Joy, we love you. We just think maybe today got away from all of us and we need to regroup. Joy wipes out her eyes angrily. Don't patronize me. I know what I saw. I know what just happened here. And I know that if my own co-hosts don't have my back, then there's no point in me being here anymore. She reaches down and unclips her microphone for the second time in this segment, letting it fall to the table with a thud that echoes through the studio. The symbolism is not lost on anyone. The other hosts are all standing now, trying to talk to her to calm her down, but Joy is already moving toward the edge of the stage. Joy, please. One of them calls out, let's just talk about this. Don't make a decision like this in the heat of the moment. Joy stops at the edge of the stage, turning back one last time. Her faces stir with tears now. Her makeup running, all pretense of composure gone. It's not the heat of the moment. It's years of being the lightning rod. Of being the one who asks the tough questions while everyone else plays it safe. I'm tired. I'm tired of being the villain. So, if that's what you all think I am, then I'll make it easy for you. I quit. The words echo through the studio. Someone in the audience lets out an audible gasp. The other hosts look like they've been physically struck. The cameras are capturing everything. This unscripted, unplanned moment of television history. Joy doesn't wait for a response. She walks off the stage, her footsteps the only sound in the otherwise silent studio. The remaining hosts stand at the table, looking at each other with expressions of shock, confusion, and dawning horror at what just happened. One of them finally turns. Final analysis, and what's next? To the camera, her voice shaky. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. But as the show cuts to commercial, everyone watching knows that nothing is going to be the same when they come back, if they even do. Joy Behar, one of the original hosts of The View, has just quit on live television, following a brutal confrontation with Robert Irwin that spiraled into a conflict with her own co-hosts. The fallout from this is going to be massive. Social media is probably exploding right now. News outlets are scrambling to cover this story. And everyone who witnessed it, whether in the studio or watching at home, just saw something that rarely happens on television: the complete unraveling of a live show in real time. The question everyone's asking now is what comes next. Will Joy really leave, or was this a heat of the moment decision she walked back? Will the show even continue after something like this? And what about Robert Irwin, whose appearance to discuss conservation turned into the catalyst for one of the most dramatic moments in daytime television history? One thing's for certain: this conversation about how we challenge guests, how we conduct interviews, and where the line is between tough questions and personal attacks. That conversation is just beginning. And it's a conversation that needed to happen, even if nobody expected it to happen quite like this. So, what do you think? Was Joy out of line from the start? Or did she have a point about holding privileged voices accountable? Did Robert overreact by walking off? Or was he justified in refusing to be treated that way? And should Joy's co-hosts have defended her more strongly? Or were they right to call out what they saw as unfair treatment of a guest? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And make sure you're subscribed, because this story is far from over. The aftermath of this is going to be talked about for a long time too.